This is the semifinals tactical preview for the Worlds 2020 semifinals match between Top Esports and Suning. Now, the last time when we covered them, Top Esports, they showed two styles of gameplay, and I think that they've still mostly stayed towards these styles as a whole. They have not shown us anything new since the group stages when they played Fnatic, despite being pushed to 5 games in the quarterfinals itself. The two styles of play that they have is either playing through the top side of the map, playing to push out mid and try to dive on the top side should we get 369 on a carry champion like Jax or Camille. The alternative is where they would play for a bot lane push and they would put 369 on a weak side champion that can have strong team fighting presence later on in the game, such as the likes of Sion, in which that he had a very impressive showing in the series against Fnatic. For the side of Suning Gaming, we did see some new things for them. Previously in the group stages, they showed a Drake stacking style and a top focus style. In the quarterfinals against JD Gaming, they added something new to the arsenal, focusing quite a fair bit on playing the Gangplank and going for a scaling team fighting style, in which they had some issues around zone control on the objectives, but nonetheless, their scaling team fighting was able to put them through the finish line, in addition to having the Ocean Soul as well. So the last time these two teams met, it was a 3-0 in the favor of Top Esports in the semifinals of the LPL Summer Split. And the first game, well, I can argue that there was some problematic drafts, with them counterpicking a Morgana into a Caitlyn and a Lux, and then blind picking their top laner. We do see the results of that as Suning gets behind on both side lanes, where Bin gets solo killed on the top lane and Suning's bot lane gets shafted continuously and they lose their bot lane turret even before the plays to expire. The second game does see Suning take a lead against TES, however they botch it as they engage onto TES or they contest a fight around the dragon, allowing the superior team fighting of Wukong and Zoe to take over the game. And this shows a certain weakness in Suning's understanding of pick compositions against all-in team fighting compositions. And in the third game, TES, once again, we can say it's a little bit of gap in the side lanes, as this was the screenshot of the scoreboard at 14 minutes, where once again, Suning finds themselves behind in both sides of the map and not really able to find any presence to make anything happen. Despite having a pick comp against another pick composition, there is no compositional advantage for them to take to attack the game, and as they have fallen behind early by being counterpicked by their opponents, there isn't much of an avenue for them to win. Now, you can look at this and say that this was in a slightly different meta, and Suning's pick bank definitely can improve, but if we were to examine what options that they do have, looking at the 3 strategies that they've shown so far, I don't necessarily think it paints the same picture. If Suning were to go for the current boogeyman of the meta, this Drake stacking approach, I do think that it's a fairly decent raid side draft. However, bot lane 2v2 would be extremely key, and while TES faltered a little bit when they were putting Yuan on the likes of engaged supports, going for an enchanted support against the likes of a farming jungler is actually a pretty smart idea, as these champions like the CCN lockdown to successfully complete a dive in multiple situations, allowing the likes of a Lulu or Karma to get away with a bully laning phase, right? Sorry, not that the dives of those champions are weak, but rather the ganking ability of the likes of Anility and Graves is significantly lower. So I do think TES have a very powerful answer towards this available to them, and if Suning were to go for option number 2 for a top lane focus approach, I do not think that they will be able to find much success with this, as after running through a few iterations of draft, it would feel the 369's champion pools a little bit too hard to attack, and this will also involve them contesting TS's strength in the mid lane. So if they were to commit bans into limiting 369, they will find problems finding the lead in the mid lane to limit Knight's ability on the likes of a Lucian or a Syndra that would prevent their ability from making the rotation towards the top side of the map. Also, this would be contesting Knight and Karsa at one of the strengths, which is 2v2 around the mid and jungle. Now, the third option would be the thing that proved to be the X factor as to why I felt that they would be able to break serve against JD Gaming on blue side and win games despite not having counterpick in those scenarios. However, in this matchup against Top Esports, I do think that this would only be viable on red side, as whatever that they go for, I do think the 369 will be able to counterpick something that would scale in a superior manner. So if they were to go for the default options of Gangplank, Vladimir is available, which they showed in the Fnatic series. The other options that Bin can go for is the likes of a Camille or Jax, in which we would see 369 take the reverse matchup into that. So I think things are looking a little bit difficult for Suning, as they should struggle to win on blue side in this series, simply looking at the tools and champions given the ways that they want to attack the game. Now, should we be in Suning's position, what we want to see for them is that if they were to play for a Drake stacking style, we will want to see Sword on the likes of a Bard, a champion that can force skill checks and be able to contest the engaged enchanter options in the bottom side of the map. And if they were to go for a top focus style of gameplay, once again contesting TES in skill matchups with the likes of a Camille blind pick or the likes of a Zoe on blue side should be one way that Suning can try to use individual prowess or individual skill contests to find leads and take games in this series. Overall, well, I was all about the Suning hype train when I was predicting this quarterfinals. At this point of time, I do think that their options are looking a little bit bleak against TES, and the ultimate winner of this series should be Top Esports. And with that, that wraps up the semifinals tactical preview between Top Esports and Suning Gaming. And once again, this content was brought to you by Jensen. I hope you've been enjoying Worlds so far. The G2 vs Dalmon series, I might post a reflection video as to where I think my predictions went wrong, but the TLDR of that was that the way that I approach the game, I don't necessarily consider players' strengths and laning differences to show up all that much, as this tends to be a tactical preview of how teams approach the game. Now, would this be any indication of how TS and Suning turns out? Well, we'll see on the day itself. And with that, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please do give this video a like and consider subscribing to my channel. Get hyped for Worlds.